You're listening to the Sports Scramble podcast, where four friends serve up a weekly plate of sports with a side of SEC bias. Now, here are your hosts, Chet, Jacob, Wade, and Tyler.
Let's go!
And what's going on, everybody? Another week, another dollar, and it's just the two of us, just Wade and Tyler. More than I think about it, we're like an injury report every week. Like, you don't know who's going to be here every single week, but it is the duo, the SEC talk duo, that is, with Wade and Tyler. So we got a full menu to get through here on the sports docket, from the EA Sports college football trailer that dropped on Friday. We're definitely excited for that. Got a release date as well, and then pre-orders are already available. Then we'll also get into the PGA Championship, how that went down. Xander Schauffele is your ultimate champion, but there was a little bit of drama off of the course that we'll also get to. And then we'll also get into the playoffs going through right now with the NBA and NHL playoffs. Like, we also have NASCAR Neil update. There was some
drama there too.
over there too. Yeah, it was just drama pretty much everywhere you look at it. And then we'll end off the show with some college baseball weekend recap, as just this next week, we're going to be looking at the actual field of 64 on Selection Monday on Memorial Day. So with all that being said, Wade, how you doing this week?
Doing pretty good, Tyler. And I think, since it's just the two of us, we haven't had a chance to share this with our audience, but a little plug here for SEC Talk. We hit 1,000 followers on our Facebook page. So little plug there for the OG sports talk show, SEC Talk. We're excited to do our other sports coverage here for you on Sports Scramble, but of course it'll be good to rejoin our many followers come fall.
Yeah, it's definitely an exciting time to hit 1,000 followers there on Facebook. First show ever was on 2016, and there was really nothing to show for it, just a black screen and me just talking to people. So definitely excited to see that show grow. Like Wade mentioned, that show will be returning into its full. We're going to be doing an Omaha show if there are some SEC teams, which there probably will likely be, especially if they get 10 or 11 teams in there. But we'll be back on SEC Talk in the fall, talking about the new SEC look whenever Texas and Oklahoma join the conference. So that will be exciting times. So we're definitely going to get into SEC baseball later on in the show. But as I talked leading up to it here in the preview, the PGA Championship happened this weekend at the Valhalla Golf Course at Louisville, Kentucky. And it was definitely a wild 4 days of golf. It felt like the first 3 or 4 rounds that were really played in this one, it was Xander Schauffele and Collin Morikawa were the two golfers to really separate themselves from the field. Like I mentioned, there was some drama that we'll get to here, but it was ultimately Mr. Xander Schauffele getting his first major of his career, shooting 21 under, and he needed a birdie on the 18th hole to win it. As Bryson DeChambeau, he had a good round on round number 4. So with the birdie on 18, that pretty much sealed the deal there for Xander Schauffele. So Schauffele gets his first major. Steve Theegala, he was at 13 under, I believe, going into the final round. Chet texted me and said, "Hey, go ahead and place this bet for me. Put $5, whatever I got in the account." Ultimately, didn't work out for him. None of his other bets worked out. He did a little top 10, top 20, top 30. I believe he had. Obviously, he's going to ride with Scotty Scheffler whenever he has. You got it. The top 10 was Scotty Scheffler. Scheffler had a really solid round to finish at 11 under to get him to top 8. And then Brooks Koepka, he just got passed up, so he finished outside of the top 20. And then Min Woo Lee himself also finished at the top 40. So like Chet and Jacob and I put us a little parlay too. Did not work out to plans. The first two hit. Scotty Scheffler got to the top 10. And then our other two guys, I mean, they, like I mentioned, they absolutely dominated this past weekend with Xander Schauffele and Collin Morikawa, but Cameron Young cannot get the job done. So Another week, another loss in the betting column. So, Wade, what do you think about this tournament overall? And did you place any bets like us?
I stayed off the gambling this weekend. Really kind of go into gambling hibernation until football
I
season.
don't blame you.
I love baseball. It's just too unpredictable. Can't say I know enough about golf to feel too confident like you guys. But I thought it was a cool course, a good tournament, real competitive. We saw several guys finish over or I guess under 10 under, which made it really interesting, especially for a major. Some people are saying it was a little easier than expected, even though the distances were way up there. It's one of the longer layouts. Obviously we had the drama with the world's number one getting arrested in the early hours on Friday. I think I gave Chet a good scare because I texted him if he had crapped his pants yet, because I figured he had some money on the line. He didn't know what we were talking about. He said he hopped on Twitter, and the first thing he saw was casualty at the PGA Championship, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, like, no way Scotty died." I was like, "No, he didn't die. He just got arrested." And just kind of a wacky weekend there, but ultimately a good tournament and a good show out. So
I think another storyline to go is Tiger Woods did not make the cut once again.
yeah.
So, do you think that this is nearing the end of the road for Tiger Woods?
Yeah, Chet and I were talking about that as well. He had a respectable first round. I think he was right at even par, and then he just imploded on Friday. And what Chet and I said is, if he gets off to a good start and he can hang in there, then he can still play with them. But gone is the days of Tiger, like, lurking behind somebody and catching them with a string of birdies. Like, he just doesn't have that X factor anymore, and it just comes with age and fatigue. So I do think he'll continue to play, especially in these majors, but I don't know if he has the stamina to take it from start to finish, Thursday through Sunday.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he had that magic in 2019 with the Masters, and then you look at this year, his first major this year was the Masters. He ultimately made the cut, but like this tournament, like he just couldn't really put it together. It was like bogey after bogey after bogey. So miscut. The next major, looking at the golf calendar, is going to be the U.S. Open. You do have the Olympics as well. I don't think you're going to see Tiger Woods on the Olympic team. You're probably going to see Xander Schauffele, Colin Morikawa, those guys make the Olympic team. So I'm curious to see how these next couple of months shape out before the Paris Olympics kick off here in late July. So definitely congratulations to Xander Schauffele. And yeah, I don't think that the guy that you thought was going to be arrested this weekend was Scotty Scheffler. But weird things happen in sports. I guess there's a lot of drama we're going to talk about now with NASCAR. We usually put NASCAR Neil's segment at the end of the show, but we're going to sneak it in before we get into our next topic. So wait, what went down in the track between Stenhouse and Busch? Looks like they didn't like each other.
Yeah, Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Kyle Busch got in a off the track fight after the race, so it wasn't before the race, as it was in golf. Basically, Kyle Busch kind of was the aggressor. He came up and approached Stenhouse after the race. Everybody had already changed into street clothes. Busch still had his suit on, but he claimed that Stenhouse had cut him off, and so he didn't like that. So then he retaliated and ended up hitting his vehicle, spun him out very early on in the race, mind you. And this was the All-Star race, so these guys do have to earn their spot there, as Neil notes. So not necessarily like the All-Star game in basketball or baseball where it's just haphazard for fun. I mean, there's still a competitive edge there. But yeah, let's get into the details of maybe why the fight stemmed. But anyways, Neil says that for the main event, the drivers were forced to start on softer tires, and on lap 2, Kyle Busch spun out Ricky Stenhouse after he thought Stenhouse forced him into the wall earlier, but the car camera from the coverage says that it was a clean pass and that, Busch had just kind of over exaggerated. So that was crazy that happened all the way on lap number 2. Multiple drivers decided to pit and switch tires after just one lap on the soft tires. But by the end of 100 laps, the tires weren't much of a factor because the 5 cars that were in front at the beginning kept their position for the first 100 laps. Joey Logano ended up winning the All-Star race and the $1 million purse. He let it pretty much start to finish. He was the leader on all but one lap. It is an exhibition race, so it does not impact the playoff standings, but there is a lot on the line in terms of pride, and I think that's why you saw the fight happen. So anyways, after Logano was celebrating his victory, this is when the fight happened. Stenhouse was waiting at Kyle Busch's hauler to discuss the incident. Okay, so I didn't realize that. He wasn't at his own hauler. He was waiting on him to return because I think Busch finished the race where Stenhouse didn't. So that's why he was in street clothes, waiting on him to come back. He does. Stenhouse throws a punch first. Then Stenhouse's dad gets involved, which is pretty crazy. So you had Stenhouse Sr. Typically, you wouldn't see the crew members get involved because they could get suspended for the next race and fined. Typically, drivers fight drivers and crew on crew, but it was just an all-out brawl. Everybody was punching everybody. Yeah, pretty wild for the exhibition race. Also of note, Kyle Larson finished 4th after starting in the very back and spending the weekend in Indianapolis. And he at his first ever race in Indianapolis, he made the Fast 12 and the Fast 6 on the Indianapolis 500, which is pretty rare for somebody giving it their first crack. And it really shows that he's just one of the best skilled drivers in the world to be able to run both style of races. And then he qualified for 5th in next Sunday's Indy 500 as he attempts to double. So Neil's going to come on at some point and break down the double for us. But basically, he's going to do the Indianapolis 500 and then do the NASCAR race as well. If he's able to pull it off, he'll be just the second person ever to complete all 1,100 miles in one day.
All right, so we'll definitely keep an eye on that. What's going on, Mr. Flying Bantha? Hope you're having a good Monday, and definitely we welcome you into this show. So let's get on now to our fan favorite segment, none other than Dog of the Week. As I pull up what you have is the jingle, so let's go. Let's get into the week of May 20th. Who's your dog of the week?
All right. I got to go with the LSU Tiger, Paul Skeens. He's now a Pittsburgh Pirate. And just his second career start on the road at Wrigley in a day game on a Friday. He threw 6 no-hit innings. He had 1 walk, I think, and 11 strikeouts. So it was kind of a case where the strikeouts cost him a chance at completing the no-hitter because obviously they're going to manage his arm, and understandably, but they pulled him out because he had reached his pitch limit. I think if he had the perfect game going, they might have let him, go for it. But I think it's already pretty obvious that we're going to see Skeens in this situation time after time in his career. So it was a really good preview as what's to come. Yeah,
definitely a good outing for Skeens, and having him on my fantasy team is definitely a treat. As I put a whooping on Jacob, I won 8-2-1 in our league. So my team continues to keep on tracking. And yeah, I think if you're looking for, if you're a betting man, Paul Skeens, Rookie of the Year, sprinkle a little bit of cash before he gets all the way down to the hundreds. So get your value while you can on Mr. Skeens. But yeah. I mean, that man just continues to deliver start after start. So 6 shutout innings against the Cubs. I'm sure the Cubs are hoping that they don't have to face him again this season because the first 2 starts have been against the Chicago Cubs.
That's right.
So looking forward to next whenever Skeens takes the mound once again. All right, I'm going to go to another LSU player. He is a current LSU baseball player, and that is none other than Tommy Tanks White. He had himself a hell of a weekend whenever LSU needed the most. LSU needed a sweep. They definitely got the sweep over Ole Miss this past weekend. And Tommy White in his last 3-game series at Outback Stadium was definitely one that he's going to remember. He hit a solid 615 on the weekend, went 8 for 15, three home runs, one of those being a grand slam in game number 3 to put the Tigers up 8-0. And then also 7 RBIs. He also got his first triple of the career
Yes,
of his season. So definitely a weekend to remember. And then, Tommy White, he's definitely been a heck of a player for his 2 years at LSU. He started at NC State. He got over 20 home runs. He's only like 7 players in all of NCAA baseball history to have 20 home runs or more in all 3 of his college seasons. And he's like, this is it for him for at LSU. If LSU makes it to the postseason, then I think that he's going to make himself a lot of money in this year's draft. He's definitely going to be a top 10 pick, maybe even top 5. Whoever gets him is definitely going to get a dog. And it might not even be that long until we see him in the majors. Maybe the Pirates have more first-round picks and they can double up the LSU players with Paul Skeens on one side, and then you get Tommy White because, you can never have too much offense in the MLB. So definitely Tommy White, Paul Skeens gets the dog of the week, the Tiger of the week in this case, as we move on. To the next part is going to be our next one, Hidden Gems of the Week. So, Wade, what's your hidden gem that you found in the sports world?
All right, I got 2 good ones for you, both baseball related. One at the prep level. Let's take it to my hometown, Summerville, South Carolina. Summerville High School, which is where I went to high school, and their bitter rival, Ashby Ridge High School, were facing off in the lower state championship series. And Summerville won on the diamond, but the result was reversed because of a pitch clock violation, or a pitch count violation, I should say. So pretty interesting stuff. We always talk about the longevity of pitchers and their health and all the big time arms that we've seen go down in MLB this year. Well, the South Carolina High School Athletic Association has a rule in place that you cannot throw more than 75 pitches over a 2-day period. But in a 1-day period, you can throw up to 100, I think, pitches. So they played on maybe a Monday night, and then they turned around and played again on the Tuesday. And for whatever reason, Somerville had their Tuesday starter appear in the Monday game. He threw a grand total of 2 pitches. I don't really know what the story was there, if he just came in and got 2 quick outs or whatever, but he did pitch. It was actually supposed to be a doubleheader on Monday, but the nightcap got moved to Tuesday. Somerville, they'll say they were under the impression that the Tuesday game was technically a Monday game, so they thought he was good to go, throw however many he wanted. Well, he threw 83 pitches. So do the math, that's 10 more than he's allowed. Ashby Ridge's coach was sitting there with the clock, or the counter. He knew that. He secretly let the game go on. And so Ashby Ridge won by default. They won game 1, so they took the 2 out of 3. And they'll be playing for the state high school championship this weekend, I believe. So definitely some hometown stir up there. And then my other hidden gem, Birmingham Southern College is a Division III school in Birmingham, Alabama. They've had some funding issues over the last couple of years. It was rumored they were going to shut down 2 years ago. Well, this time they actually are shutting down their school. The university officially will close on June 1st. Well, their baseball team just made the Division III Super Regionals. The Super Regionals are going to last through the first week of June. So technically, they're just going to be playing baseball for a school that doesn't exist. And if they were to win the championship, I just think that'd be poetic justice, to take the title home for the no-name school or the no association school.
I just wonder, what the heck do they put on the trophy and the banner? Like, just put like the formerly known as like the Birmingham Southern University. So yeah, that would definitely be a story. We're definitely gonna look into that. But I'm gonna also go to keep it here on baseball here for the hidden gems. This is also in high school. Another controversy in high school. I mean, I don't know what's going on either in Somerville, down there in South Kakalaki, or in Southern California for Hart High School and Moore Park High School. We're competing in Friday's CIF Southern Section Division II Championship. The score was 7-6 heading into the bottom of the seventh. If you don't know what high school baseball is, the bottom of the seventh is the last inning, compared to the ninth inning that you see in MLB and in college baseball. But here's your scenario. You had a runner on first with nobody out, and you had junior shortstop Taylor Bush come up to the plate, and he smacks the ball down to the left field line. It looks like on the video that it went over the wall. They were like, the umpires looking at each other like, did it go over the wall? Did it go over the wall? And then you saw the second base umpire walk in, and he did the little home run signal. All the Hart High School players, actually it was Moore Park, began to celebrate. Excuse me for that error. But they were celebrating on the light show. They were like celebrating that they were going to win the state championship. And of course, the umps went back. No. This is actually a ground rule double. And Hart High School got all three outs, won the game. And that is, you got to feel for the players. Both, the Somerville High School, you got to feel for those players. You got to know the rules for how many pitches. But this was just like, you make it all the way, and then you just get screwed by the umps because
got to go check that ball and see if it has like a big scuff on it or something.
I mean, it clearly went over the left field wall. I mean, like, we could pull it up here, and I'm sure that everybody watching would also agree that. A lot of controversy happened in the high school ranks. These umps, they're all volunteer umps. I mean, they don't get paid, like six figures or anything like that. They're just volunteering. I mean, you got to feel it for that high school baseball team that made it all the way, and they just get absolutely screwed by the umps. So if you have any hidden gems that you'd like to share with us, definitely drop in the comments. Also, if you have a dog of the week, drop that in the comments as well. We definitely want to hear you guys' thoughts on those two segments. All right, let's get into what everybody here is definitely excited for come July 19th, and that is EA Sports College Football. Finally, is going to be dropping both on Xbox, the new Series S and X, and also PS5. So if you're out of luck, if you still have the Xbox One or PS4, you're going to have to upgrade and spend a couple of dollars. And if you're on PC, you're also out of luck there. It's only going to be on the newer Xboxes and the newer PS4 or PS5, there. So let's talk about this EA Sports College Football 25 trailer that dropped. There's definitely a lot of highlights to take from it. The first school that was on this reveal was Boise State. And from there, whenever they show the blue turf, it's going to be a good video. So we pretty much got the traditions. We saw Boston College, all those players before. You saw a Notre Dame player, their iconic play like a champion. It looked really realistic. I mean, those walls looked like you were actually in Notre Dame Stadium. You saw LSU, they're coming out of the tunnel, hitting the wind bar. If you've been in LSU's locker room, it literally looks exactly like that from the video game into real life. You saw the Florida players touch the Gator head before moving out. Clemson's Howard Rock, all their players jumping and being excited, head on down, probably facing off against Florida State, somebody like that. But then you got into a little bit of the gameplay. You saw a little bit of Wyoming and App State get together on the field. You saw Army and East Carolina. With doing the little, of course, they had them Army running the option. I mean, it wouldn't be a college football game if Army is not running the option. And then you also saw a lot of highlights of Donovan Edwards, stiff arming the Ohio State defender. And then you just saw everything in between. So, Wade, what were your overall first thoughts on this trailer that released on Friday?
I agree with you on the attention to detail. I think that they did try to get some of that pageantry into the game. However the game mechanics sort out, I probably won't even notice the difference. So that's the kind of stuff that I'm looking forward to, is the uniforms and the fight songs and the trophies. And then this whole recruiting aspect with the NIL. So, and the playoff, a lot of new dynamics. So I think it's a overwhelming success to start. I did see thread on Twitter that the director of the, I guess, preview video or hype video is definitely a Michigan alum, and it was confirmed that he is because you saw Donovan Edwards just stiff arm the Ohio State guy. Then everybody's like, "Hey, what's that turtle trophy that the Illinois players
Illinois.
are hosting up?" Nobody's ever seen that. Well, yeah, because Illinois hasn't
It's been
beaten
since
Ohio State.
2007 since we. And
Yeah.
did you see the score in the back? It was 52-42. Like that would never happen between Ohio State and Illinois.
17 years. Like I think 2007 is when I first started really paying attention to college football. So I only remember Illinois being good one year, and that might have been the year they went to the Rose Bowl. So, anyways, there was just some just not even sneaky attacks on Ohio State there, which was all in good fun. But yeah, I thought it was definitely a great start to the game. I know they'll be fine tuning it, getting the rosters together and all that, but definitely looking forward to a little Xbox Dynasty action. That'll be fun.
Yeah, definitely a lot of fun. I think that really the one thing that I noticed, Chris Fowler's quote is like, "Oh, you could just throw that this is just another game," because there's a lot of people think that this is just a Madden reskin. You can have your word and opinions on that, but I think that was definitely the right quote to use, because this EA Sports definitely gets a lot of negativity just because of Madden. Madden hasn't been that great of a game. It's pretty much, if you played Madden like 24 through like 20 and 18 and 19, it's pretty much been the same game. So there's been a lot of negativity surrounding EA Sports. So I think that's a little nugget that you found that EA Sports used to their advantage. So let's dive into the game modes that we're going to be getting in this new college football game here in July. You're going to be having Dynasty mode, like Wade mentioned. That's probably what we're going to be doing. We're already selecting our teams, and you can have up to 32 players. So we might have to hop on the phones here and get a full 32 players, maybe scatter some in the Sun Belt, Conference USA. Who knows? But Dynasty mode, I'm definitely excited to see how they implement the transfer portal and this whole new college football landscape. NIL, you have the transfer portal. So definitely excited for that. The one feature that I hope is still in here is the coaching carousel. Once you start off, say App State and James Madison, you should be able to get a new job, say at the Georgias of the world and the Ohio States of the world. So hopefully that's still in the game. But Dynasty mode is confirmed to be. The next one is Road to Glory. And I think that a lot of people are excited from reading this here. You get to manage your weekly schedule, GPA, your image, and earn your coach trust. So managing your weekly schedule and GPA reminds me of the old NCAAs. If you remember, you went to class, you took conferences. So you took a lot of tests, like which conference is Texas in? You would say the Big 12, and you would say the SEC.
I might fail that this year, man.
Yeah, you might fail because there's so many things going on. Like who made it to the college football playoff national championship last year? You would probably have to answer that. So I'm definitely excited for that. And also in Road to Glory, you'll be able to transfer too. So if your coach isn't giving you enough playing time, you could just enter the transfer portal and go somewhere else and get some more playing time. The next game mode is, I think that there's some good and bads with this. I know that you don't like this as College Football Ultimate Team, but I think it's going to give a lot of people opportunity to really build a super team. They're going to have legends in the game. So you have guys like, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. You'll have guys that, through these 11 years when we didn't have the game, you'll finally be able to play them in Ultimate Team. So pretty much you'll be able to create your own teams. So we'll see. I don't think there's going to be too much differences between Madden and college football, EA Sports College Football 25 Ultimate Team. I'm pretty sure it's just going to be the same thing where you can do some challenges, open up packs, spend virtual money if you want to upgrade your team. And then the next feature is Road to the College Football Playoff. That'll be the last game mode. It's pretty much cut and dry. You get to take over a team. I think this is only one season. It's not like Dynasty where you could play up to 60 seasons. So pretty much that is, you pick a team, you try and get up to the polls, make it to the College Football Playoff, which will be 12 teams this year. And then another thing that I'm excited for is Team Builder. You'll be able to customize your teams and put them in the Dynasty. So definitely going to be a lot of fun to make your customized teams there. So out of those, which game mode are you excited to jump into here once this game drops in mid-July?
I've always been a huge Road to Glory fan. I mean, I definitely will have one going on. I try to latch onto a bigger school, so I think that's how I'll be able to kind of experience the SEC or the Big Ten or something. But then for the online dynasty, I think that we all agreed that we're going to start kind of small. So I think that's going to be really cool to see the intricacies of the game. So definitely those two. And I think the transfer stuff, the NIL stuff worked in there. I think it'll be done well, and it'll be a good addition to the game.
Yeah, I think those are my top two game modes that I'm playing immediately. Road to Glory, I'm creating whatever. Probably running back. He's going to go to like some small school, and if he ain't getting no playing time, I'm transferring up to the bigger school to try to win us a national championship. But I definitely think that I'm more excited for Dynasty, just creating a small school. I think the online Dynasty is what I'm excited for too, because we haven't really had like a big Dynasty with all our friends. So definitely excited to see if we're definitely all going to take over the Sun Belt. Who knows? Maybe people have changed their minds, but we have 2 months to decide which team we're going to rock with. So let us know down in the comments which team you're going to be rocking with in your first dynasty. But one more thing here on this college football game is the announcers. So this is like the first time that we've ever gotten multiple broadcast crews. So your marquee games, you'll be having Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit. And then the other games, like say if it's like James Madison versus App State, you'll probably be getting these other guys, which is Reese Davis, David Pollock, and Jesse Palmer. So what do you think about that, getting two different commentator crews in the games?
Yeah, I think that's great as well. If I recall correctly, in the old mode in the Dynasty, if you were playing like in the MAC or something, sometimes there'd be no commentary. Like it was not a televised game. I always thought that was cool. So this kind of takes it to the next level. I think you'll also see things like game times will change with that, and the crowd energy level. I'm sure that will all play into it.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited for that. The environments in that game are going to be real. I mean, if the trailer is showing like the stadiums, I mean Baylor's entrance with the flames going out. And I cannot wait for like these are the two stadiums I cannot wait if they get these like the titles. Like if South Carolina has their full entrance, that's going to be like one of the most freaking insane entrance, like with Cocky coming out of the curtain and playing Sandstorm on your way to kickoff, and then Virginia Tech's Enter Sandman if that's in the game. That's going to give you absolute chills. And honestly, if that's happening, I'm putting Virginia Tech week 1 in my dynasty no matter what. I'm going to have to beat them. But I am going to have chills listening to both Sandstorm and Enter Sandman walking into that stadium. So a lot of excitement to build around this game. We have 2 months literally to talk about it. So I'm sure we're going to be talking about it pretty much every week leading up to this game. But we're definitely excited to hear both our thoughts and your guys' thoughts as well. So let's step out of the virtual world and hop back into real life sports and hop into the NBA and NHL playoff check-in. It's almost over. We've literally talked about it pretty much for, it feels like a month now. But we're now in the Eastern Conference and Western Conference finals for both respective NBA and NHL. There is a game 7 tonight between the Oilers and Canucks. So the winner of that will be moving on to face off Stars in the Western Conference finals. Well, first off, let's go to the NBA. Our matchups are set first in the Western Conference finals. You have the 5 seed Mavericks facing off against the 3 seed Timberwolves. The Mavericks beat the Thunder, the number 1 overall seed, in 6 games. And the Timberwolves were down, I believe it was like 20 last night. And then Anthony Edwards and Naz Reid went absolutely nuts in the fourth quarter to stave off that comeback. So we have the Timberwolves and the Mavericks facing off. Who do you have advancing on to the NBA Finals and representing the Western Conference between those two teams?
Well, look, I doubted or downplayed the Timberwolves. I thought they were a good story. They knocked out the Nuggets. I got to get on the train now. So I'm going to go with Anthony Edwards and Minnesota. I just think that he's got the electricity in him, right now, and just a really good bunch. I think they're hot. I think they get it done.
Yeah, this is going to be an exciting series. I think that this is definitely going to go 6 or 7. You really look at Dallas's side, Luka. He's going to put on the X factor literally every game. Anthony Edwards. I mean, it feels like every game this postseason he's dropped at least 30 points. And then you also have the cast behind him. Karl Anthony Towns. He's had himself a nice postseason. Naz Reid has also stepped into the clutch when Minnesota needed the most last night in game number 7. I'm going to go with Minnesota as well. I think that this is a team that is just catching fire. And I think that the Nuggets, I know that you and I were really talking about them, like, could they go back to back? So I think that was a really good series. Nothing against Dallas. I think that this is definitely going to be a fantastic matchup. Would not be surprised if this goes long, but we're both rocking with Anthony Edwards in Minnesota to move on. Now let's go to the Eastern Conference side where we have the Pacers, the 6th seed, and the Celtics, the number 1 overall seed there. So the Pacers just knocking off the Knicks in game number 7 at Madison Square Garden. Not really too much of a close game either. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton got hot from the three-point line early, and they never looked back. The Celtics, it feels like it was like so long ago that they completed the series win over the Cavs. So it was a quick series win for the Celtics. So the matchup between 6th seed and the 1 seed are going to go Boston or Indiana in this matchup.
I so badly want to take Indiana here. I mean, I think Halliburton is just that guy like Edwards is, but I just think it's Boston's year. I do. And I think it's shaping up really nicely for them now that some of these other threats like OKC and Phoenix and all are taken out. So I think it's shaping up well for Boston if they can just get through this series. I think that Indiana's going to give them a fight, though. I mean, I think both of these series are probably going to 6 or 7.
Yeah, Indiana took down a good New York team. Would not surprise me if they give them a scare, but Boston's just a more complete team. I mean, they won 63 games for a reason. I think that they were morally picked even in the preseason to hoist this trophy here in June. So I'm going to continue on picking the number 1 overall seed here in the Eastern Conference. Going to go with the Boston Celtics. So we both have the 1 and the 3 seed facing off in the NBA Finals. And then we'll leave our picks for the finals. We'll let the Eastern Conference and the Western Conference decide itself here. So the next time that we'll probably talk about the NBA is whenever we have the final 2 teams standing on. So let's move on over to the ice. Like I mentioned, the Oilers and Canucks. Game 7 tonight. That will wrap up the semifinal matchups, and then we'll move on to the finals matchups there. So let's go on to the Western Conference. So the winner of tonight's game, the Oilers and Canucks, will face off against the Dallas Stars. The Dallas Stars knocked off the Avalanche in a very good series. They also knocked off the Golden Knights, who were the reigning champs from last year. So I know that you got some ties from the Dallas Stars. So you're rocking with the Stars to move on to the Stanley Cup Finals here?
Yeah, I am. And, I'll tell you this. I've watched more NHL playoff action than I have NBA. And every time it's been the Stars, just coincidentally, it's been on after volleyball games and such. I did see the Pacers win last night. So that was about the extent of my NBA action this week. But NHL wise, yeah, I'm locked in on Dallas. Of course, I did go to a game. It was a lot of fun. We were trying to go out there just a few weeks ago when we were in the Dallas area, but the playoff series started the day after we left. But yeah, I think this team is poised to make a run.
Yeah, I think that they're destined for a run too, carrying a lot of momentum, beating 2 really good teams that I thought that were going to go farther than expected. But Dallas has definitely been playing some very good hockey as of late. And then whoever comes out of this Oilers Canucks game is going to give them a hell of a series too. But I am going to go with the Dallas Stars. I think that if this is the year that they're going to hoist that Stanley Cup, this is the year to do it. They're going to have to face off against the Eastern Conference where we see the Florida Panthers. They knocked off the Boston Bruins in 6 games. The Rangers took care of the Carolina Hurricanes in 6 games as well. So who do you have in that matchup between Florida and New York?
Definitely a toss-up. I don't know a ton about either team, but I'll go with Florida.
Yep, Florida made it to the Stanley Cup Finals in last season. I don't think that this is going to happen this season. New York, too complete of a team for me. I think that That Carolina Hurricanes series, I mean, they just let Carolina just come back. Hey, we'll give you 2 games, and then we'll finish you off in game number 6. But Florida, they're coming off a really good series against the Bruins. Bruins were one of my teams I was looking at to potentially go far and win the Stanley Cup, but Boston just didn't play well, honestly, for majority of that series. So Florida looking to go back-to-back years, make it to the Stanley Cup final. Won't be easy against New York. I'm going to go with the Rangers. So you have the Panthers and the Stars in the Stanley Cup final. I have the Rangers and the Stars, and I'm going to go ahead and say it. I think that the Stars get it done. How about you?
Booyah. Let's do it. See the green background?
Yep. It's the Dallas Stars background. So we're going to keep it up with the playoffs check-in. We'll let that play out. And then the next time we have the NHL and NBA, we'll be looking at the championship and give our championship picks early on. We're both thinking the Stars for the NHL. We won't give away our pick in the NBA. We'll let that play out before. Another league that's about to get into the postseason play is college baseball. Once again, as we've been doing pretty much throughout the entirety of this season, we've been going through the college baseball weekend recap where we go through like 3 or 4 series that caught our eye. Of course, we're wearing the purple and gold. We are going to be talking about LSU getting a huge sweep over Ole Miss. And the question I have for you, have the Tigers done enough to get into the field of 64 in your eyes?
Yeah, I think that they did with the sweep. I'd feel better about how they're going to perform in the field of 64 if they, don't get smacked around by Georgia and Charlie Condon. But yeah, I think they're in. They got to that magic, 13 wins is the number, and looked dominant for probably the first time all season, getting the first sweep of the year. I think I'll look back at some of the series, such as the Missouri and the Auburn series, where you were a win away from getting a sweep when maybe you should have. And then ones like Florida, at home, Vanderbilt. I think those
Alabama
were winnable
game
series.
1.
Alabama, yeah. So I think this team, if they're rounding into form, I mean, they're just a few bounces away from having like 17 or 18 wins. So
yeah, we could talk about potentially this team hosting if the ball goes in their way.
Yeah, if you had 17 wins, yeah. So, I wouldn't take them lightly. I also wouldn't go to Hoover and not show up. I mean, this is a really good chance for this team to snag a 2 seed should they make it to the Final Four or so. But I think they're locked in as a 3 for now. I think if you win 1 or 2, you're probably still at 3. But if you really make a run, you could just heat up, snag a 2 seed. That would be fantastic.
Yeah, I think that they've done enough too. I mean, this was a team that was left for dead. I mean, they started the first half of SEC play. You're looking at 3-12, and you're like, this is about to be another year that a national champion does not make the field of 64. But they turned it on the second half, 10-5. Like you mentioned, I think that the couple of games that you can circle, game number 2 against Florida, where you should have won that series, and then Vanderbilt, game number 2 as well. It was like game number 2's haunted you. And then Alabama game number 1, I mean, you pretty much literally threw the ball away and threw the game away itself there. So those are like 3 games that if you flip those, you would be 16 and 14 it would be. But yeah, definitely a couple of games to watch. But definitely a great turnaround. I mean, you go from 3-12 to 10-5. I mean, that is just a polar opposite. So from the first half and the second half. But the thing to keep eye on, there are 5 SEC teams that are all 13-17, and they have RPI and KPI pretty much they're all like pretty much even with each other. But a thing to note, Florida, they did get a huge series victory this past weekend against Georgia, but their record is not very good. It's like 28-26. They do have the number 1 overall strength of schedule, so we'll just have to see on Monday what the committee is thinking. Alabama as well. They have a good RPI. Vanderbilt and South Carolina, the 2 teams that I would not feel too confident right now because they're not playing good baseball down the stretch. South Carolina just got swept by Tennessee. Vanderbilt, I can't even remember when the last time that they won a series. It feels like it's been since I think it was in April that they won it. But Vanderbilt, they just lost the series to the co-champs in the SEC, Kentucky. Tennessee ultimately won the SEC and got the number 1 overall seed. We'll talk about the SEC tournament in a couple of minutes. Let's get into some other series to it in the ACC that caught my eye. NC State gets the sweep against Wake Forest. So NC State looking like pretty much a lock to be a top 16 seed. We'll look into more of the projected field of 64 by D1 baseball here as well in a couple of minutes. And then North Carolina getting the big series victory over Duke. I think that North Carolina will be a top 8 national seed for sure, no matter what happens in the ACC tournament. So NC State and North Carolina both getting good series wins. There was also Arizona. They clinched the Pac-12 regular season championship. And the Big 12, Oklahoma clinched the regular season championship in the final Big 12 championship for them. And then the Pac-12, Arizona going out strong. We'll never see the Pac-12 again in baseball or any other sport because the Pac-12, after college baseball ends, is dead. And then everybody in Washington State, Oregon State get to go play in the Mountain West. So let's get on to the SEC tournament. You know, we're the 2 hosts of SEC Talk. We're going to just go ahead and give a little preview. The SEC tournament starts tomorrow and early at 9:30 a.m. The weather's looking absolutely beautiful, but I know dang well there's going to be some like voodoo storm that comes out of nowhere when we get a delay. It would not be the SEC tournament with at least one delay and pushing a game to like 1 a.m. in the morning and you have to deal with fog. So that's what the SEC tournament is. So let's go ahead and look at the bracket, and let's go ahead and give who we have our champions. So we're not going to go through everything, but we're going to go through the seeding here. So the number 1 overall seed in the SEC tournament, it goes to the Tennessee Volunteers. The 2 seed is the SEC West champs. That is Arkansas. You have the 3 seed Kentucky. For those wondering, well, Kentucky won the co-champion, but how the heck is Tennessee number 1? Because they won the series head-to-head. That's how it works. And then Texas A&M, they are the number 4 seed. So tomorrow's games will be bright and early. Is number 6 seed Georgia facing off against number 11 seed LSU. 7 seed and 10 seed South Carolina will be Alabama and South Carolina. And then 6 seed will be Vanderbilt, Florida. And then 5 seed, the nightcap will be 5 and the 12, Mississippi State and Ole Miss. So let's go ahead and go through the quick picks of these first couple of games, and then we'll give our overall champion. So who do you think wins the first game between Georgia and LSU?
I think Georgia comes out swinging. I don't trust the Tigers in the 9:30 game. Give me the Dogs bats.
Yeah, I'm going to go man, this is probably going to be a lot of offense. I mean, I don't even know who's going to pitch for LSU. I don't know if you go gauge jump that early. I mean, that would be 4 days rest. He just pitched Thursday. You're not going to see Georgia's aces either, and their pitching staff hasn't been great down the stretch because this could be like a 10-8 game. And so I could definitely see it. You know what? Give me the momentum. I think that LSU's playing really good. I think that they get the 1, and I think that they're already firmly into the tournament. I think that the SEC tournament might matter more just because there's so many 13 and 17 teams.
And it could I'm going to go determine where you go, you know.
Yeah, it could determine whether you go, you know, maybe to Corvallis or you stay closer to home and maybe you go to like Oklahoma State, something like that. But let's go on to the next matchup, Alabama and South Carolina. Personally, I'm going to go with Alabama. I know that they just lost the series to Auburn. Auburn has just been an absolute stinker of a team, but I think that they get it done and get themselves a quality win. Potentially putting South Carolina maybe outside of the field of 64 if they drop this one. So who do you have winning between the Tide and the Gamecocks?
I'm going to go with the Tide as well. I just think that they've been a better team as of late. I think both of these teams probably need to win to get in. So this is kind of an elimination game. I think LSU probably jumped both of these schools. Definitely jumped South Carolina. They might not have jumped Alabama yet because of the head-to-head factor.
Yeah, I definitely completely agree. Definitely a big one for South Carolina. I think that Alabama, no matter what they do, they're firmly safe to me. I think that with an RPI of 18, hard to keep them out. And then 13 wins is good enough. But, yeah, that was definitely a stinker for them losing that series to Auburn. That was one that they really needed to take to feel good about themselves. And now you really get one, and I think that they're definitely in. Let's go on now to bracket 2 matchups. So you have the 8 seed and the 9 seed with Vanderbilt and Florida. could very well be a win in your in scenario.
Yeah, another tough one here. I would say Vanderbilt to me passes the eye test more. So I'll go with the Commodores. I just think Florida hasn't come to play in the big moments all year.
Yeah, I feel like Vanderbilt's like always a team that like does well in the SEC tournament, goes on a run. So I am also going to go with Vandy. I think that this loss puts Florida, that would put them 28-27 as the overall record. They did not do well outside of the conference. So if they lose that one, they might be on the outside looking in, but we'll have to see. Let's go on to the next one. 5 of the 12, Mississippi State and Ole Miss. Who do you have winning the Magnolia Bowl?
That's a great matchup here for Hoover. Hey, both of these teams missed it in last year, huh? Both of them missed it. So it's good to have them back. I'm going to go with Mississippi State. I mean, Ole Miss just got trounced by the Tigers. Mississippi State's been a nice surprise. They could play their way into hosting, I think, if they have a good week.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Mississippi State. I mean, Ole Miss, they would have to win this whole thing to get into the dance. They're firmly outside of the field of 64. Like you mentioned, Mississippi State playing for more. I think that they get one or two more. If they win this one, they beat Texas A&M. I think that's good enough for hosting. So Mississippi State's playing for hosting. Ole Miss, though, is playing for spoiler. But I'm going to go Mississippi State in this one. Ole Miss did win the series early on in the season, but I think that the Bulldogs get revenge. Let's go with the overall pick. Who wins the 2024 SEC tournament on the diamond?
I'm going to go with I say it's a surprise team, but it's probably not at this point. But I'm going to go with Kentucky. I just think that I don't know. They're not always in this situation where they can win it. And I just think they're a very balanced team. I think their heart's there. They want it. I think Tennessee is probably the most talented team, but I think Kentucky gets it done.
Yeah, I really like that Kentucky pick. I mean, Kentucky, they're either going to be the number 1 or number 2 national seed. I don't think that they have to really show us any more in the SEC tournament. But if they win the SEC tournament, they're going to be the number 1 overall national seed no matter what happens, especially the way that the SEC has really built this whole entire season. I think that you can really look at the ACC. They're a really good baseball conference, but the SEC, everybody
got to give the dog the top pick, I think.
Everybody's beating each other up. I'm going to go with another team that's on that same bracket. I'm going to go Arkansas. I think that the Razorbacks piece it together. I think that their pitching staff, I mean, whenever Hagen Smith goes, he's going to get you an automatic win. So whether he goes, they could probably save him. I mean, I think that they could beat Alabama or South Carolina with their midweek starter, and then they could save him for probably whoever. They would probably be facing Kentucky. So you have Hagen Smith going up against Kentucky. I think that's a recipe for success for the Razorbacks. Pair that with the way that their offense has been playing. I know that they just dropped the series to Texas A&M, but Texas A&M at home, I mean, that's just like walking into a trap there. But I think that Arkansas pieces it together on the offense and on the pitching staff. So give me the Razorbacks. But I like that pick of Kentucky. I think that Kentucky is one of those teams where they didn't make it Omaha last year, but they could definitely make it to Omaha this year. So you're rocking with the Cats. I'm rocking with the Hogs as our SEC tournament picks. Before we wrap up the show, let's look into the latest D1 baseball fielder projections. We'll look at where LSU is just because, we're LSU fans. But let's look through the national seeds. First, let's roll through 1 through 8. So you had the number 1 overall seed being Kentucky, the 2 seed being Tennessee. You had the 3 seed Texas A&M. So there you go. The SEC getting 3 of the top 3 national seeds. The ACC comes in at number 4 with North Carolina being the number 4 national seed. Arkansas is number 5. Clemson is number 6. 7 is Oklahoma. And then 8 is Georgia. So any surprises you see there from the top 8? And who do you like out of those top 8 teams?
I think the surprise would be Oklahoma climbing up there, North Carolina jumping Clemson. I know they're hot right now. I think Georgia falls out of there unless they win maybe 2 games in Hoover. OSU in that regard could play spoiler for sure. But I mean, I gotta stick with the Cats or Tennessee. I think I just really like how that would be if they got a seed that high. They would be pairing up with the 15 or the 16 seed, which Could be another SEC school like Mississippi State. Could be North Carolina State. Could be a mid-major. So, yeah, I think I'll stick with the Cats or Tennessee.
Yeah, I think that my surprise too here is Georgia. I thought that they would have dropped out of the top 8 seed, especially with the home loss to Florida. You're really looking at, I could see some other schools, like we're going to talk about Oregon State. I think that's a team that could sneak into the top 8. Florida State is right there with Georgia. I think that those teams are pretty even. But a team that I'm really liking to see is North Carolina. North Carolina is a team that you definitely don't want to see right now. They're playing really good baseball. When the ACC is no slaps, the ACC is probably the second best conference in college baseball. You see here, like the top 8 was pretty much ACC and SEC. So I think that it's going to be your Omaha too. I think it's going to be a lot of SEC and ACC teams, and it's pretty much going to be everyone else for themselves. So let's go on now to 9 through 16. So number 9 seeded is Florida State. So you have another ACC team right there. Your lone Pac-12 team, Oregon State. Oregon State's playing well down the stretch. NC State is number 11 seed. Virginia, another ACC team, comes in at number 12. Then you have number 13, another West Coast team, the Gauchos, UC Santa Barbara. A couple of years ago, if you remember, they were a team that shocked Louisville in that super regional. They hit the Grand Slam walk it off in that one. So a lot of memories with the Gauchos. We see Indiana State. This was a team that got a national seed last year. I believe they got bounced in their own regional. Can't remember the team. I believe it was TCU. They went in there and beat Indiana State, the Sycamores. So the Sycamores we see there at number 14, East Carolina at number 15. So East Carolina early projections, we saw them at the top 8. They've fallen off to number 15. And then we see number 16, Oklahoma State. So how do you see that shaping out with number 9 and 16? Who could be, a double-digit seed that can make some noise and go all the way to Omaha?
I think it's East Carolina. If they truly do fall all the way down to 15, I know I'm being a bit of a hypocrite because then they would be playing.
They would be playing Tennessee.
But I wouldn't want to see them, I guess, is the answer to the question. That's a top 5 team just a week ago. And they, being in a smaller conference, they don't get the benefit of having a bad weekend. If a team like Georgia loses a series, they can still be number 8. And I understand that Florida's a good ball club, but there's such thing as just having a bad weekend. And that's what East Carolina did against Tulane, but they've had a really good season. So I think that they're every bit of a top 10 team. So the further they slip down, that's the team I don't want to play. Yeah,
ECU can't afford to go one and done in the American Championship tournament, because if they do, they could definitely fall off and they have to be a 2 seed and traveling somewhere. So I think that if they win their conference tournament, they could potentially go to 13, 14. You want to get more up to avoid like these SEC teams that I feel like are just like, if you're gonna be having to face either SEC or ACC team the way that these top 8 rankings are shaping out. So I definitely like that pick of East Carolina. I think UC Santa Barbara, but I think I have to go with another ACC team like NC State. They're playing really good. They just swept a very good Wake Forest team. So NC State, we get Clemson. So that would be an all ACC super regional. I think that Clemson they're definitely vulnerable down the stretch. They were a hot team in the first half, but I could definitely see NC State pulling off that upset and going on to Omaha. Before we end the show, let's go through the last 4 in, first 4 out. We'll talk about LSU's path, and then we'll look at the pairings of these national seeds of how it would shape out. So your last 4 in, you have Coastal Carolina, Troy. They have Vanderbilt in the last 4 in. So like we were just saying, if Vanderbilt loses, they could definitely fall out of this tournament. And then you have UNC Wilmington. Your first 4 out are Cincinnati, Louisville, California, and Xavier. So those all 4 teams, you really feel like they have to make a deep run in their conference tournaments to get on the right side of the bubble. Okay, let's talk about where LSU is. This is the first time that they're in this field of 64. So that's definitely a first to see if you're an LSU fan. But they're in the number 16 seed, Oklahoma State, the Stillwater Regional. So LSU would be the number 3 seed in that region. The 2 seed would be Dallas Baptist, DBU. And then you would have number 4 seed Lamar. And then the number 16 seeds paired up with the Lexington Regional. The Lexington Regional has Kentucky, Illinois, Coastal Carolina, and Sacred Heart. So as an LSU fan, how would you like that path for the Tigers?
Hey, I think it would show them as one of the stronger 3 seeds, getting to play in a 16 seeds region. I think geography-wise, that makes a lot of sense. You have 2 Texas teams, 1 Oklahoma, 1 Louisiana, everybody borders. And I think you're going to see a lot of that because look how many teams in the Carolinas are in. You're going to see some of these really close-knit interstate rivals, and especially at the super regional level, right? So I think that's a good landing spot. I think on the flip side, they could get sent up to Norman in Oklahoma's. So you got to look out
sent
for
out
that.
to UC Santa Barbara.
Yeah. So, yeah, the way it works, I mean, LSU is always kind of at jeopardy of going out west just because the sport right now is so East Coast centric. They can't send us to Arkansas being in the conference. The Texas teams weren't really all that this year with TCU and Texas, so you'll avoid them. So, yeah, I think it's either going to be Oklahoma or California at this point.
Oh, it's definitely going to be California or something. And I would not
Or
be surprised.
Oregon State.
Well, I feel like they played last year, so I don't know. They love to just put LSU and Oregon State whenever they can. Like they can't get over the 2017 College World Series when LSU took them down, and then like literally the last 2018, whatever. They're either going to get sent out to Alaska or get sent somewhere close. You never know. But let's go through if everything holds to chalk. These would be your matchups here. We're going to give some of our favorite matchups we would like to see. So you would have the number 1 overall seed Kentucky facing off against 16 seed Oklahoma State. Knoxville region is paired up with the Greenville regional, which would be Tennessee and East Carolina in the 2 and the 15. Then you have College Station and Terre Haute. The 3 and the 14 would be in Texas A&M and Indiana State. 4 and the 13, it would be Chapel Hill and Santa Barbara. You just go ahead. There's no way, like, especially if Arizona in this region. I mean, come on. Like, the story's going to write itself. LSU is going to be a 3 seed in there. They're going to have to face Arizona in the first game. It's going to happen. But North Carolina and UC Santa Barbara, the 4 and the 13. 5 and the 12 would be the Fayetteville region and the Charlottesville region, which would be Arkansas and Virginia. Clemson in the Raleigh Regional would be NC State and Clemson in the 6 and 11. So you get an all ACC matchup there in the Supers. 7 and the 10 is Norman and Corvallis with Oregon State and Oklahoma in the 7 and the 10. And then Athens and Tallahassee would be the 8 and 9 with Georgia and Florida State. So out of those matchups, what would get you most excited to see on the diamond?
I think that Oklahoma and Oregon State one would be pretty electric. You know, a lot of the focus has been on the ACC and the SEC. So to see 2 of the best teams that are out of those conferences would be quite fun. But it would also be fun to see them go up against a team like Clemson or NC State. So I'm kind of hoping we see a lot of cross-conference matchups. I know they try for that, but I do think
It'll be challenging.
Yeah, you'll see some 2-seed SEC schools end up playing in Fayetteville or College Station or what have you. So same with the ACC. So I think you will see a lot of interconferences.
I like that matchup too, but I'm going to go for a matchup we saw on the football field. It was not very close. Georgia and Florida State. I mean, that would be a race to 10 in pretty much every game. Those are 2 of the most electric offenses. You got Charlie Condon with Georgia. Florida State feels like 1 through 9. Their offense could just explode for a ton of runs in that one. So that's going to be it for our college baseball talk. I'm going to be putting out a video myself like I did last year whenever the field is 64. I'm going to make my picks of the regions. A D1 baseball puts out their bracket challenge, and that's what I use. So I'll go through each region, give my full breakdown, who wins the region, who gets the runner-up in the region, what will be the matchups in the super regional. So exciting times if you're a college baseball fan. Got the postseason, got the conference tournaments. You're probably going to get some bid stealers because it feels like it happens every single year. So if you're on the bubble, you think that you're safe, And then Tulane, 19-40, comes in and out of nowhere and like steals a bid like last year. So something's crazy is going to happen, but it's definitely an exciting time to be a college baseball fan. So we appreciate everybody for joining in for this week's episode. Next week, our episode falls on Memorial Day, so not sure if we're going to be doing a show that night. We're just going to put it up in the air. So I'm not going to say anything for certain, but if we are, we definitely appreciate everybody for tuning in to our shows week in and week out. So for the Sports Scramble crew, we wish you all a happy week, and we will see you all next time here right on the Sports Scramble podcast. Have a good night.